Level 1. The Unwatchables. Airstrike. When the Chinese decided to produce a $65 million war epic with Bruce Willis and an Oscar winner, everyone expected a masterpiece. What they didn't expect is that it would become unwatchable. Airstrike is among the most expensive non-Hollywood films ever made. It had Bruce Willis, it had Adrian Brody, an Oscar winner. It also had one of the most tragic true stories in World War II history, the Japanese bombing of Chongqing. With all these, you wouldn't be wrong to think it was destined to succeed. Well, it bombed. Audience and critics alike described the CGI as childish and video game-like at best. Aerial dogfights that should evoke terror instead provoked unintentional laughter. The dubbing is even worse. English voice actors speak with vigor, while the actors' mouths stay completely shut. In some scenes, the same character is dubbed by different voices. It's almost like watching an AI slop, except this slop cost $65 million. Off-screen, things weren't better. Investor fraud, bankruptcy, tax evasion scandals, producers pulling out. It was complete chaos. This director even ended up self-funding the film just to finish it, after everyone abandoned ship literally. One IMDb reviewer wrote, and I quote, "This film is so bad, it made me nostalgic for Pearl Harbor." That's how low we are. And if you're wondering why Pearl Harbor, stick around and you'll find out why. Airstrike fails on every measurable axis. Not a single element functions at a professional level. The budget was wasted on something incomprehensible, and worst of all, it insults the tragic events it claims to honor. But if you think Hollywood can't produce something worse than the budget, wait till you hear about Nicolas Cage and CGI sharks. USS Indianapolis, Men of Courage. It's one of naval history's most harrowing survival stories. Nearly 900 sailors killed by shark attacks over 4 days in open water. So how did Nicolas Cage make it unwatchable? The real story says the USS Indianapolis sank in 1945 after delivering components for the atomic bomb. The survivors floated in the Pacific for days while sharks attacked them. This should have been impossible to mess up, especially with Nicolas Cage starring in it. Oh, how wrong we were. The actual result was a film showing complete historical infidelity to the actual events. The CGI sharks are unconvincing. The performances felt disconnected with the subject's gravity. Like Airstrike, it took a worthy subject and produced total failure. There's no standout sequence, no memorable performance, no technical achievement worth citing, not even a quotable scene from Cage. And this is why nobody talks about the movie. These films exist in a realm where no amount of charitable viewing can salvage the experience. They fail on every axis. They're not just bad, they're insulting to the events they depict. And the next level isn't much better, after all. When you give up $140 million and the most dramatic event in American history to Michael Bay, a disaster is the last thing you expect. Level 2. Disasters. Pearl Harbor. Robert Ebert called it a 2-hour movie squeezed into 3 hours, about how the Japanese staged a surprise attack on an American love triangle. What exactly did an acclaimed critic see to say this? At the turn of the 21st century, Michael Bay was given a $140 million budget and everything needed to create another Titanic. He had Ben Affleck, Josh Hartnett, and Kate Beckinsale. He had December 7th, 1941, one of the most dramatically potent events in American history. The film ended up with a 24% Rotten Tomato score. The problem with Pearl Harbor is it's built around a romantic melodrama so lifeless, it undermines the historical gravity. Critics called it like watching a first date on September 11th. The dialogue was a disaster. There's even a scene when Ben Affleck gets a nosebleed and says, "I think it's my heart." Cringe. The historical fabrications are even worse. Admiral Yamamoto is placed in the Japanese task force, while in reality, he didn't accompany the armada. Jimmy Doolittle is portrayed as a foul-mouthed man who didn't recognize a slide rule. The real Doolittle had a doctorate in science from MIT. Even Rolling Stone cited Bay's direction as one of the 50 worst decisions in film history. But here's the thing, the 40-minute attack sequence is technically proficient. Bay's pyrotechnics are always competent. The aerial combat was genuine kinetic energy. This single sequence is why it's level 2 and not level 1. It proves Michael Bay could have made something great. He just didn't want to. And that's something we already talked about in our 7 levels of movie directors video. But if centering a war film on romance is bad, wait till you see what John Woo did. He somehow did worse as he centered the Navajo Code Talker's story on Nicolas Cage's white character instead. Wind Talkers. The Navajo Code Talker story is a legendary tale. Their indigenous language became an unbreakable cipher that won the Pacific War. So when John Woo, one of cinema's greatest action craftsmen, was given a $115 million budget to bring the story to the big screen, no one expected it to become the genre's most painful missed opportunity. The film grossed only $77 million. Massive failure, 32% on Rotten Tomatoes. The film centers on Nicolas Cage's fictional white Marine, Adam Beach, who is Navajo, and Roger Willie are sidelined into supporting roles in their own story. They're treated as objects to being protected, rather than subjects with agency or dramatic arcs. One critic wrote, "A genuinely fascinating piece of American history reduced to a near psychopathic bloodbath full of transparent jingoism." Another, "With the same script, same actors, and a different director, this picture might have been worthwhile." The problem here is that the movie centers on Nicolas Cage's fictional white Marine, while Adam Beach and Roger Willie, actual Navajo actors, get pushed into supporting roles in their own story. They're treated as objects to be protected, rather than people with agency. Add to that Woo's directing style, and you get a disaster. The truth is, Woo's ballistic slow-motion violence works perfectly in Hard Boiled, the 1997 cop thriller. But applied to this historical material, it's fundamentally wrong. He turned Sapien into an action playground. Like Pearl Harbor, the technical craft is there. Practical explosions, practical squibs, massive scale, all shot before CGI took over, but without characters you care about, spectacle just becomes noise. Who still stands by the film and claims MGM didn't understand his vision. He even released an extended director's cut. It didn't help. Honestly, Pearl Harbor's failure hurts more, because that 40-minute attack sequence proves Bay could have made something great. He just chose not to. Woo, on the other hand, just didn't have a direction. The films in this level had everything. Studios, stars, 9-figure budgets, and they still collapsed. This just proves that money can't buy coherence, and star power can't fix a broken script. So while films in Level 1 fail completely, and Level 2 waste resources, what about films that do everything competently, and you still forget them a week later? Level 3, Forgettable, Fury. When David Ayer put Brad Pitt in a Sherman tank for the final weeks of World War II, it had all the ingredients for a classic. You've got Pitt, Shia LaBeouf, and John Bernthal as a tank crew pushing through Germany. Add to that a genuinely thrilling final siege, and you have the ingredients for a masterpiece, so why can't anyone remember it? Here's the thing about Fury. It does everything right on paper. Pitt and Bernthal commit fully to their roles. There's real moral complexity when they force the new recruit to execute a German prisoner. The production design nails the mud-soaked grimness perfectly. The final tank siege? Legitimately intense. But then you step back and realize you've seen all this before. Every character is a war movie archetype. The grizzled commander, the Bible-thumping gunner, the scared kid who grows up fast. One reviewer nailed it when they wrote it. Lacks moments of either soaring hope or deep despair. The emotional register just stays flat for 134 minutes. Even the technical stuff undermines itself. Those tracer rounds look like Star Wars laser beams instead of actual bullets. And that one final stand where one disabled tank somehow holds off hundreds of SS troops? Come on. This is Level 3 in a nutshell. Too well made to be bad. Too conventional to stick in your memory. You watch it, appreciate the craft, and forget it exists. Now, if Fury disappears despite Brad Pitt, the next film did the opposite. It made $547 million and sparked a cultural war bigger than any battle it depicted. American Sniper. Bradley Cooper as Chris Kyle. $547 million worldwide. 6 Oscar nominations. Audiences gave it an A+ cinema score. So what was everyone arguing about instead of talking about the actual movie? Clint Eastwood directed this. Cooper gained 40 pounds of muscle and nailed Kyle's Texas drawl. The rooftop sniper scenes are tense. When the film focuses on Kyle's PTSD, his detachment, his inability to connect with his family, Cooper's performance is genuinely moving. American Sniper lands here because it has one outstanding element surrounded by a whole lot of fine. The moral framework is muddled. The film shows the Iraq War entirely through Kyle's eyes. Every Iraqi is a threat. No context, no counterpoint. Veterans pointed out the historical problems immediately. The film butchered the real story of Mark Lee's death. Data analysis found it's only 56.9% accurate to what actually happened. Oh, and there's the fake baby. You know the one. Cooper rocks an obviously plastic doll in a scene, and it became a meme, a symbol of how the film would cut corners in weird places. But the real issue? The political firestorm. Liberal critics said it glorifies an unjust war. Conservative audiences called it a patriotic tribute. The film couldn't decide what it actually believed, and when a controversy becomes more compelling than the movie itself, something has gone wrong. One strong performance, competent direction, but the muddled execution left everyone half satisfied. And so we go to the next level. But before we show you level 4, hit subscribe if that fake baby and American Sniper made you laugh. And keep watching, as in level 7, we'll be breaking down the insane production of the greatest war movie ever. Level 4, Strong Performers, Black Hawk Down. When Ridley Scott decided to recreate the 1993 Battle of Mogadishu with a 144-minute sensory assault, everyone knew it would be technically brilliant. What they didn't expect was how emotionally hollow it would feel. Scott got everything: Josh Hartnett, Eric Bana, and Ewan McGregor. The actors went through actual military training at Fort Bragg. The sound design, editing, and cinematography are overwhelming in the best way. Roger Ebert even wrote that the film's rendering of bloody chaos is somehow comprehensible. You understand where the Americans are, why they're there, and what their situation is. As pure immersive craft, it's the highest level. The film even premiered in Washington with Dick Cheney, Donald Rumsfeld, Paul Wolfowitz, and Oliver North in attendance. That should tell you something. Scott got full military cooperation, but that came with a price. The Pentagon had to veto power over every aspect of the production. That was the problem. The soldiers blur together. They're competent, brave, and completely interchangeable. The dialogue rarely extends beyond curses and "whoa." One of the few characters who stands out is Ewan McGregor's, and that's only because he was originally based on a convicted child molester, and they had to change the name mid-production to protect the Army's reputation. The problem with Black Hawk Down is it avoids any geopolitical context. It never explains why American forces were in Somalia in the first place. The famine was already over when U.S. troops arrived. There's no mention of American support for the dictator, Siad Barre. Then you have left-wing critics calling it naked propaganda masquerading as serious filmmaking. The only reason it belongs at level 4 and not lower is it does one thing better than almost any film in the genre: sustained, immersive combat. The technical mastery is undeniable, but the absence of human depth and political inquiry keeps it from reaching elite status. And while Black Hawk Down is an emotionally hollow piece of propaganda, Tarantino created a masterpiece that has only failed by its category: Inglourious Basterds. Unlike retelling the war like other directors, Quentin Tarantino rewrites World War II. Jewish soldiers execute Hitler in a burning movie theater, the revenge fantasy to end all revenge fantasies. So is it even a war film? Christoph Waltz won an Oscar for playing Hans Landa, the Jew hunter. That opening farmhouse interrogation runs for nearly 20 minutes, and it's a masterpiece in sustained tension. Tarantino isn't afraid to just sit there and let the scene breathe. He can see Waltz being mesmerizing, multilingual, charming, and absolutely terrifying. The film works as a satirical criticism of war cinema itself. It forces the audience to confront their own enjoyment of on-screen violence. The bastards mirror Nazi tactics, scalping, brutal executions, and dehumanization. By the climax, when they're machine-gunning Hitler's face into pulp and the audience is cheering, Tarantino has exposed how easily we become complicit. The audience literally becomes part of the Nazi audience watching violence for entertainment. But here's where it stumbles. The 5-chapter structure creates uneven pacing. Some chapters crackle with electricity, others feel stiff. The bastards themselves are surprisingly underdeveloped, and they function as archetypes more than actual characters. Peter Bradshaw of The Guardian gave it 1 star and wrote, "It fails as a conventional war movie." That's harsh, but the point lands. The film's relationship to the actual Holocaust is contentious. It uses genocide as a springboard for a revenge fantasy. But individual scenes operate at the highest level of filmmaking. That farmhouse, the basement tavern, every appearance by Landa, the intellectual ambition is razor sharp. But the uneven pacing and the underdeveloped cast keep it from elite tiers. Look, I think Inglourious Basterds is better than this placement suggests, but it's a brilliant Tarantino film that happens to be set in a war, not a brilliant war film. There's a difference. The films at this level do multiple things well, and at least one thing brilliantly. Black Hawk Down's immersive combat, Inglourious Basterds' opening interrogation, but uneven execution, unresolved contradictions, or missing emotional depth prevent them from reaching the top. So, if level 4 is genuinely good, what makes level 5 different and better? Level 5, the elites. Saving Private Ryan. 27 minutes. Omaha Beach, June 6, 1944. That was all Steven Spielberg needed to change cinema forever with a single sequence. But what did he actually change? Yes, the movie had Tom Hanks. It had a 91 Metascore. It also won 5 Oscars. But none of that matters as much as what he did with those first 27 minutes at Omaha Beach, because this is the most influential set piece in war film history. The technical choices were revolutionary. Handheld cameras, desaturated color, a 45-degree shutter angle that made motion appear staccato and hyper-real. Spielberg shot it over 4 weeks and hired amputee actors for realism. But here's what's wild. The average shot length is 7.2 seconds. That's incredibly high for a battle scene. Most directors would cut to create chaos. Spielberg does the opposite. He fills each frame with so much detail that the chaos feels observed rather than manufactured. A film professor placed it alongside Einstein's Odessa Steps, Ford's Stagecoach Chase, and Kurosawa's Rain-Swept Samurai Battle. BBC Culture wrote, it brought audiences closer than ever to the horrifying sights and sounds of combat. The technique Spielberg and cinematographer Janusz Kaminski pioneered influenced everything that came after, from The Bourne Identity to The Creator. Veterans who saw it even reported PTSD symptoms. The sequence was that real. But here's why Saving Private Ryan is at level 5 instead of higher. The narrative spine, the search for Private Ryan, is more conventional than the genre's absolute highest achievements. The supporting cast function as archetypes. You've got the wisecracking Brooklyn kid, the cowardly translator who finds courage. Tom Hanks is superb, but the others are types more than people. And then there's the ending scene, the elderly Ryan weeping at the cemetery. Critics call them sentimental in a way that undercuts the opening's unsparing honesty. The film changed the genre's visual language forever. That's undeniable, but the storytelling, while excellent, operates within traditional boundaries. Saving Private Ryan belongs here because that Omaha Beach sequence alone secures elite placement. Combined with Hanks, Kaminski's cinematography, and Spielberg's directorial command, it's unquestionably elite. Just not quite the absolute summit. But if Spielberg changed how we see combat, Kubrick changed how we understand what creates killers in the first place. Full Metal Jacket. Stanley Kubrick split Full Metal Jacket into 2 halves that feel like completely separate movies. Boot Camp, then Vietnam. The Boot Camp first half is among the most powerful sustained sequences in war cinema. R. Lee Ermey was a real former drill instructor. Kubrick hired him as a technical advisor, then realized Ermey should just play the role himself. Ermey improvised most of his insults.
You will learn by the numbers. I will teach you. Now get up. Get on your feet. You had best unfuck yourself or I will unscrew your head and check down your...
This wasn't in the script. His performance redefined the drill instructor archetype permanently. The private pile progression builds like a horror film. Vincent D'Onofrio plays this soft, incompetent recruit who gets broken down, rebuilt, and then snaps. The latrine murder-suicide is the climax. Kubrick spent 3 years researching this film, conversations with Michael Herr, studying archival footage, and reading Vietnamese newspapers on microfilm. He built the city of Hue in a London gasworks, and spent 2 months literally knocking holes in buildings with a wrecking ball to simulate battle damage. That Born to Kill helmet with a peace button? The duality of man. The Union thing. The boot camp half shows how the military creates killers. The Vietnam half shows what those killers become in the field. But here's the issue. The Vietnam half is less cohesive than the boot camp half. After the searing intensity of Paris Island, the Hughes segments feel episodic rather than cumulative. One critic nailed it. Full Metal Jacket creates intellectual admiration more than emotional devastation. It is a film you analyze more than you feel. Kubrick's clinical detachment is brilliant but cold, and the on-set tension was real. Matthew Modine and Vincent D'Onofrio had such bad blood during filming that Modine bought a punch bag because he thought coming to blows was unavoidable. That anger bled into their scenes together. The ending, soldiers marching through flames singing the Mickey Mouse Club theme song, was Kubrick's choice of devastating irony. It's not the source of novel. It's pure Kubrick. Full Metal Jacket belongs at level 5 because the boot camp sequence is perfect filmmaking. The structural duality is intellectually audacious. Ermey's performance is legendary. The hue imagery is haunting. But that slight imbalance between the two halves and Kubrick's preference for cold dissection over emotional immersion keeps it among the elite rather than at the very peak. These films change what audiences and filmmakers thought was possible. They don't just occupy the genre, they define it. Every war film that came after either imitates them or reacts against them. Saving Private Ryan gave us a new visual language. Full Metal Jacket showed us the machine that makes warriors. These are the elites, but there are still 2 levels that are ranked above this one. Why? Well, let's find out. Level 6. The Masterworks. Come and see. When Soviet director Elem Klimov fought censors for 8 years to make a film about the Nazi occupation of Belarus, they told him it would be too unbearable to watch. His co-writer, Ales Adamovich, said, and I quote, "Let him not watch it then. This is something we must leave after us, as evidence of war and as a plea for peace." That's deep. Klimov cast a 16-year-old non-professional actor named Alexei Kravchenko to play Flyara, a boy who joins the partisans. Over the course of the film, you watch this wide-eyed kid transform into what critics called a horrifically aged, traumatized to madness, ravaged husk. The transformation is so disturbing, it generated lasting rumors about the production methods. Kravchenko later admitted he suffered PTSD for years. He's since forgiven Klimov, but only after understanding what the director was trying to achieve. The production used real military explosives and artillery. Real explosives. The sound design keeps ringing in Flyara's shattered eardrums for extended sequences, forcing you into its damaged perception. The camera holds on sustained close-ups of faces staring directly at you, revealing what one critic called indescribable hollowness. The village burning sequence is based on the real Katyn massacre. The horrific event states that 628 Belarusian villages were burned to the ground with all their inhabitants. The title comes from the book of Revelation, Come and See. Behold a pale horse, and his name was Death. In the 2022 Sight and Sound poll, the most prestigious critics poll in cinema, Come and See was ranked as the 41st greatest film of all time, not war film, film. It sits alongside Citizen Kane and 2001 A Space Odyssey. Roger Ebert wrote that after watching it, the survivors must envy the dead. Come and See belongs here because no other war film achieves this level of psychological devastation through purely cinematic means. It's not entertainment, it's not argument, it's not spectacle, it's testimony. Francois Truffaut once claimed that all war films inadvertently glorify war. Come and See doesn't glorify a single frame. Honestly, Come and See is the only war film I've seen that makes me never want to watch it again, and I mean that as the highest compliment. And if that's the most devastating, the next is the most emotionally overwhelming piece of black and white cinema, Schindler's List. Steven Spielberg spent decades avoiding the Holocaust. He didn't think he was ready, but when he finally made Schindler's List in 1993, he created the best film of his career. The film runs for 184 minutes, but critics still say it's too short. Spielberg shot it in black and white as both an aesthetic and moral statement, connecting it visually to historical footage. He filmed on actual locations, Schindler's factory, the gates of Auschwitz. Liam Neeson plays Oskar Schindler, the Nazi businessman who saved over 1,000 Jews. Ben Kingsley plays Itzhak Stern, his accountant. Ralph Fiennes plays Amon Goth, the concentration camp commandant. Ebert wrote that Spielberg's film doesn't attempt to answer why Schindler changed. Any possible answer would be too simple. And that's the genius. The relationship between Schindler and Stern is developed with enormous subtlety. There's no moment where they bluntly state what's happening. To do so would mean death. And then there's the girl in the red coat, the only color in the film, who marks the moment Schindler's awareness shifts. The Auschwitz shower scene transforms a historically ambiguous moment into profound commentary on dehumanization. And Ralph Fiennes' Goth is a study in the banality of evil. He shoots Jews for target practice from his villa balcony while casually conversing with subordinates. The final sequence shows the actual Schindler's Jews and their descendants placing stones on his grave. There are 6,000 descendants today. The total Jewish population of Poland is 4,000. Let that sink in. Schindler's List has a 95 Metascore, 7 Oscars, and a 9.0 on IMDb from 1.6 million votes. But what makes it level 6 is the lack of the director's touch. Schindler's List is probably the only Spielberg movie that isn't obvious to viewers. The films in level 6 don't just rank among the greatest war movies, they rank among the greatest movies, period. They transcend the genre entirely. They are the genre, but there's one level left, one film. And if you think you know which one it is, put your guess below in the comments. Level 7, The Untouchable. Apocalypse Now. Francis Ford Coppola planned a 6-week shoot in the Philippines. It took 238 days, and the production became as insane as the film itself. But what makes it untouchable? Every great war film can be described by what it does best. Apocalypse Now is all those things and none of them. It's devastating, morally complex, emotionally shattering, but also hallucinatory, operatic, darkly comic, and structurally unlike anything else. Coppola based it on Conrad's Heart of Darkness and absorbed Wagner, T.S. Eliot, the counterculture, American imperialism, Brando's charisma, Duvall's machismo, and his own madness. It has a 94 Metascore and topped the IMDb list of greatest war movies. But the behind the scenes makes the film look tame. Martin Sheen had a heart attack on set at 36 and was airlifted to Manila. Typhoon Ogula destroyed the sets. Dennis Hopper showed up drunk and high. Coppola started smoking grass and got paranoid. The Philippines was in civil war, and rebel forces even got within 10 miles of the set. Also, the government kept taking helicopters back to fight, ruining shots. Even real corpses were even discovered on set. And one time, a water buffalo was actually hacked to pieces during a tribal ritual. Coppola even said this about the movie: "My film is not about Vietnam, it is Vietnam. We were in the jungle, too many of us, too much money, too much equipment, and little by little we went insane. The madness of making it became the point. The Do Lung Bridge sequence alone is worth entire filmographies. Kreutz whisper, the horror, is the greatest word war cinema has spoken. The movie influenced Platoon, Casualties of War, Rambo, and even our level 6 entry, Full Metal Jacket. And after 50 viewings, I believe Coppola didn't make a movie about madness, he made madness itself. The truth is, Level 7 is Apocalypse Now, and Apocalypse Now is Level 7. It has exceeded all boundaries entirely. Till this day, every great war film approaches Apocalypse Now. None have surpassed it. If you love this video, like and subscribe to get notified on the next video. In the meantime, click the video on screen to see our breakdown of the 7 levels of directors. Level 6 might surprise you. See you there.